Hi, welcome to this maybe spring and winter update. It's a little bit late for a winter update, so we'll make it a spring update perhaps. Yes, I've been a bit slack in making videos lately, but I've had other things on the go. But I thought I'd give you a bit of an update of what's been happening in the garage. We'll cover the three bikes that I'm standing in front of first. I'll start off with the Gilera. I've really just been riding this bike. There's really been no maintenance issues with it. It does have a minor oil leak, which I think is coming from one of the crankcase joints. So if I wanted to fix that, I'd have to take the engine out and really replace all the gaskets and seals on the engine. Now I've minimised the amount of oil coming out of the bike by replacing the sight glass window, the countershaft sprocket seal, and I also replaced the O-rings on the sump plug last time I did an oil change. But there's been really no maintenance required on this bike. I've really just been riding it. And I haven't been riding it as much as I would like because, you know, as I get older, I'm finding it pretty hard going riding a bike where you really have to fold yourself up almost like a pretzel to get onto it. It's a pretty compact motorcycle, and really my old joints and bones really are finding it pretty hard going, particularly in the colder months. I did manage to get it out a couple of weeks ago for a ride up through the Yarra Valley, and again, every time I ride this bike, particularly through challenging roads, I'm always astounded at how good it is in the corners. It's an absolutely fantastic, compact, small motorcycle, and really at home in those tight, twisty roads that we've got up the Yarra Valley. So that's about it for the Gilera. Nothing much has really been happening on that bike. So next I'll cover the Moto Guzzi Le Mans. And since I did the valve guide replacement on that, really I haven't had to do any other maintenance on the bike. It's coming up for a new rear tyre, probably in the next 1,000 kilometres. But all I've been really doing on that bike is riding it. Again, it never ceases to amaze me how good this old 1991 Moto Guzzi Le Mans is. Sure, its handling characteristics are more 1970s than they were 1980s. It's nowhere near as good a handling motorcycle as the Gilera, which has much more nimble handling and is a much more modern design, even though it predates the Le Mans by a few years, this being a 1988 model. So the Le Mans will be due a rear tyre, as I said, and probably sometime in the next 1,000 to 1,500 kilometres. But apart from that, all I've really been doing is enjoying the bike. And I must admit, winter was particularly cold this year, so I haven't actually got out on the Le Mans as much as I would like. But I do try to get out at least once on a weekend, if it's not actually raining, for at least 100 Ks or so on any of my bikes. And I find that really does help you keep your eye in, so to speak, on the riding characteristics of the various bikes and so that you feel at home when you change from bike to bike. Finally, we'll move on to the Benelli TNT, and again, really nothing really needs to be done to that bike. It's still got good tread on the tyres, it's running beautifully. There is a minor oil leak that's coming from behind the water pump. Now, it just seems to be an oil leak. There's no coolant coming out, so I don't think that the actual water pump seal is going. But I should take that water pump off at some stage this year and just check that the bearings of the water pump haven't deteriorated, because that could account for the seal just weeping a little bit. Then again, it could just be the fact that being a 2006 model bike, that seal is just hardened and a little bit of oil is just escaping past the shaft anyway. So that's something that's on my to-do list this year. Again, all I'm really doing is riding that bike, and I must admit, every time I get on the Benelli, I am always amazed at how good it is. You know, I went to a lot of trouble back in 2007 when I bought that bike to ride all the competition that was available at the time. You know, I rode the Cagiva Raptor, the Aprilia Tuono, the Ducati Monster, and even rode one of the Buells at that time as well. But of all of them, I think I felt most at home on the Benelli. It really suited me just fine. The only downside of the Benelli really is the fact that the seat is pretty uncomfortable. I do often have a sheepskin fitted to it, which helps a little bit, but it's certainly not the sort of bike where you're going to be doing hundreds of kilometres with that particular seat. Really needs something like an Airhawk or something like that on it to really improve the comfort level if you wanted to do any longer rides. Now, I have replaced the rear tyre on that, and I went for a slightly bigger profile tyre this time. I'll put that up on the screen because I can't actually remember what size tyre I put on it. And that really has made a little bit of difference to the handling. It's made it a little bit sharper because it's lifted the back of the bike up by 10 millimetres, and I'm really finding it it suits my riding style, and I really like the way it's just sharpened up the handling a little bit. Now, I did go on a test ride earlier this year. I actually went on a ride day for the launch of the new Moto Guzzi Mandello, and that launch was held at St Andrews at a cafe there, and that was organised by the importer of Moto Guzzi in Victoria. Now, I'm of two minds about the Mandello. On the road, it really doesn't feel like a traditional Moto Guzzi. It's very much a modern motorcycle, and it's certainly a quantum leap from anything else in the Moto Guzzi range that they've made to date. The V85, which is the model that was released a couple of years back, feels completely different. And one of the reasons for that is that the V85, while a new model, still has a heritage that's based in the older small block Moto Guzzi engine, and when you ride it, it certainly feels like a Moto Guzzi. You can feel that vibration. You can just feel the torque reaction, and it actually rides like an older Moto Guzzi in many respects, but just a lot more refined. Now, the Mandello is a completely different cup of tea. It, in many respects, has no heritage link to the older Moto Guzzis apart from the fact that it's a transverse V-twin. The engine is a twin overhead cam, water-cooled. They've moved the exhaust and inlets round so the exhaust's on the outside rather than on the front of the block. And, everything is completely different. It's, as I keep saying, it's a modern motorcycle. There's very minimal vibration, minimal torque reaction, and it doesn't really give you much feedback if you're expecting that sort of more traditional Moto Guzzi ride. Is it a good thing? Well, for the factory, I'd say it is a good thing from the simple fact that the older style Moto Guzzis with their more heritage feel on the road really probably won't attract newer riders because they probably are a little bit harder to live with in that respect, and riders that have grown up on modern motorcycles probably expect something that's a little more refined than the older, more traditional Moto Guzzis. The styling of the bike is more adventure bike orientated, or takes its styling cues from adventure bikes. So the bike is a little bit more upright, and certainly it looks like it'd be a great touring motorcycle. Its party trick are those little aerofoil flaps that open at over 80 kilometres an hour, I think it is, on the front of the tank, just to give a little bit less turbulence on the rider when you're riding at freeway speeds. I can't really say whether they did anything. You'd have to really try them with and without, but certainly at the speeds we were doing, the bike was very quiet and comfortable. And certainly overall, it's a great motorcycle. The gearbox changes gears comfortably, clutch is light, brakes are light, handling is nimble, suspension's really nice. The one I was riding didn't have the semi-active suspension, it was just set and go. But on the roads we were riding, it was fine, and we were riding some pretty rough back roads. The only complaint I would have had about the test ride was the fact that we really just rode back roads. We didn't actually take in any real freeway roads at any stage. It was just really tight, twisty back roads. I don't think I would consider a Mandello myself, but I certainly wouldn't give it a bad rap. It's a motorcycle that perhaps may not appear to Moto Guzzi traditionalists, but I can see a lot in it that would appeal to a newer rider looking to get into a larger capacity motorcycle, particularly someone who has ridden perhaps a few adventure bikes but would like a bike that's more road orientated and something that would be suitable for touring or long distance daily commuting. Anyway, that's the Moto Guzzi Mandello. We'll move on now. So really that covers my three motorcycles. My wife's Moto Guzzi 750 Breva is running faultlessly. Really we've done nothing to that bike since we've bought it. It's done probably another 8,000 kilometres since then. It certainly doesn't use as much oil as the previous Breva, even when it had done the same kilometres as this one has now. So obviously I think it's roughly 4 years difference in age. The Moto Guzzi factory had improved something in the engine to reduce that oil consumption issue that some of the earlier ones had. The Breva again has required no maintenance at all apart from an oil change since we've bought it, and I took it out recently for a bit of a ride, and I really do find those small block Moto Guzzis a real delight to ride. They're a real genuine all-round motorcycle, and certainly I would recommend the Breva or any of the small block variant Moto Guzzis to anyone who's looking for a comfortable, non-threatening, mid-size motorcycle that has decent performance and decent handling and suspension, and it has very decent manners on the road. Now, one of the reasons why I haven't been doing so many videos on motorcycles is I've actually been involved with with a few other things, and one of the things that I have done is I've become a lot more involved in woodworking over the last year and a half. And I've been doing a few projects with my younger son. So we'll just move over to that side of the shop, and I'll just show you how I've set up the other half of the shop for some woodworking projects, and just give you an update of some of the things that I've actually been doing in the last year and a half. So this is the other side of the shop. I've set this up area primarily for woodworking. Now, since I don't have any dust extraction, I usually take the power tools outside to do any work. That way I can just use the vacuum or the blower vac out there to clean up any mess that I make, rather than get sawdust in here, which would make its way over the other side of the shop into the motorcycle area. But some of the projects that we've been doing have been quite interesting. Not really the sort of stuff that I would put on my channel, because it really is motorcycle and machinery related, and woodworking probably isn't quite in the same vein. I might do some reviews of some of the tools perhaps. Now over here I've got a radial arm saw. I've had this DeWalt, it's an 8001 model radial arm saw. I've had that for over 30 years. And it's proven to be a really fine performer. Now, radial arm saws have fallen out of favour in recent times. They've been really replaced by miter saws. Other tools I've got in here is I've got a Hikoki table saw. This is a contractor type saw, so it's got wheels on it, and it's designed to fold up and go in the back of a ute. Again, I found this to be a really accurate saw, and I'd certainly recommend it to anyone who's looking for a small, compact saw. The advantage in the shop is that you can fold it up and get it out of the way. Over here I've got a router table, which I've just finished building from a second-hand tabletop and Carbotech lift that I bought recently for a good price. I still need to put on a wheel so I can take it outside to use it. There's also a range of cordless tools. I've just gone for fairly inexpensive Ozito tools. I'm quite familiar with these tools because our local men's shed has quite a number of them, and they've given sterling service over at least 3 to 4 years. Now, the projects that I've been doing over here with my son have been quite interesting. He developed an interest in woodworking a few years back, and the first couple of projects, he did a music stand for a harpsichord. That was his first project. The second project was a music cupboard to put sheet music in. We used recycled timber from an old wardrobe to make that, and that certainly was a bit of a steep learning curve. There's biscuit joinery and doweling, miter cuts, and I thought it came out quite well in the end. After that, we've been building a series of weather station and clock cases. Now the clock cases that we've built, again, have been quite challenging and quite a steep learning curve, but I've thought that they've actually come out rather well. I'll put up a few pictures during this little diatribe of some of the projects that we've done so that you can see what we've been up to. In fact, there's one of the projects is on the bench here. This is another clock case that's currently under construction. This one has a little dome on the top that's been turned on a wood lathe, and there's also some decorative pieces to go around the case as well. So I think that's about your lot for this particular video, and I'll catch you next time.